Chapter 1. Looking for a Place to Stand. When I was growing up in Alabama, my family would vacation at the strip of Florida beaches between Panama City and Fort Walton, affectionately called the Redneck Riviera. As soon as we arrived at the beach, my friends and I were in the water. The older we got, the braver we became. Each year we ventured further and further from the shore, and eventually it happened. We found ourselves so far from the shore that the water was over our heads. We would push off from the bottom, and at the next moment, we would be gasping for air as our feet desperately prodded the void beneath us, looking for the sandy bottom and a place to stand. We would swim back a few feet and try again. Sometimes we would find bottom just after our faces had gone under water, and we would bounce up again and swim a little closer to shore. We'd try again, and if the water was still over our heads, we would keep swimming toward the shore. Eventually, we would find a place where we could stand with our heads above the water and bounce up and down above the waves. I write this book having recently stepped down as a senior pastor. After more than 45 years of congregational leadership, 32 of them at one church, I decided it was time for me to do something else. I wanted to work with pastors and churches as they tried to figure out how to preach and serve in a world that seems to be unable to find the bottom. People in our world bounce up and down, gasping for air and trying to find a place where they can stand. Sooner or later, their heads slip under the waves and they never come up again. As I continued in my teaching, preaching, and conversation with neighbors and friends, I noticed a change in their philosophies of life, their worldviews. To be honest, what I began to see wasn't a change as much as it was a disappearance of any coherent and thoughtful understanding of life or its meaning. I didn't find myself talking about faith with agnostics or atheists. These days, I was talking to people who didn't seem to have any theological foundations in their lives at all. They simply made decisions as they came up. If it worked out, fine. If it didn't, then they would make another decision. There was no goal. There was no destination. There was no purpose. There was only today and the one goal of simply making it to the next. As I talked to my friends and acquaintances, most of them were happy I had found something that worked for me. But they either didn't see the benefit or feel the need to explore Christianity any further. I found myself feeling like I was at the beach again. I was bouncing up and down, trying to find the bottom. I couldn't find a place to stand. I couldn't find a place to begin. This book is about finding a place to begin. Like missionaries of past generations, we find ourselves walking into a different country with a different language and culture. What worked back home, in another place and another time, won't work here and now. Where do we begin? Where do we start? We find ourselves missionaries in our neighborhoods. America is no longer a Christian nation. We have no statistic that would lead us to believe the citizens of the United States are mostly Christians. They may define their morality as based on Judeo-Christian values, but they wouldn't consider themselves to have surrendered to the Lordship of Jesus Christ or committed to following His teachings. Several years ago, my wife and I were enjoying a conversation with a couple we had met at a friend's home. They had just moved into the area, and our host wanted to help them make some new friends in their new community. Our conversation led to the "what do you do for a living" question, and our new friends were intrigued when they found out that I was the pastor of a Baptist church. For some reason, interesting conversations always happen when people find out what I do for a living. The husband wanted to know how I ended up in the ministry, and the answer to that question is my testimony, i.e., when I came to know Christ. This is what Christ wanted me to do with my life, and I've been trying to live out His calling since that moment. The couple nodded and smiled politely, and then the wife said, "I'm glad you found your truth." I didn't know what to do with her statement. The possessive pronoun caught me off guard. My truth. As far as I remember, that was the first time I had heard someone use that phrase in ordinary conversation. I didn't know the truth was something that could be personally owned. I didn't know the truth could be personally validated.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it. at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.